Tim Keller. And Tim is the district director for Representative Brian Sims. And Tim, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about Brian and about yourself because you can do a much better job than I can. All right, thanks. And I'm going to turn that over so you have the bill list. If you don't need it, just turn it off and you can wander. But don't wander too far. You know what? Maybe do it if she's recording.
Okay. Can everyone hear me just fine if I speak like this? My name is Tim Keller. I'm the district director for State Representative Brian Sims. Good morning. Welcome to the 182nd Legislative District. Unfortunately, Representative Sims had a previously scheduled engagement on the West Coast this afternoon. So we had to, just go off the top of our heads there, and Kathleen gave me a call. She put me through the ringer with questions over the phone, and it turned into an invitation to come speak to you all today, and I'm very grateful for it. So recently there's definitely been a paradigm shift in perceptions and attitudes towards LGBT civil rights within the last several years. Political scientists in Pennsylvania have often been baffled because of the extreme differences in political ideologies. We have a very diverse electorate that varies from fiercely conservative to fiercely progressive. Pennsylvania has definitely become a battleground state for LGBT civil rights. There are several pending pieces of legislation that are stuck in committee currently. We'll get into that in a little bit. But even though there is a widely diverse electorate, the support for LGBT civil rights is there and it's overwhelming. 7 in 10 Pennsylvanians actually support equal civil rights for all. And 61% of identifying Republicans also support this. And this is starting to reflect in legislative support. For the first time, the LGBT Joint Caucus for both the Senate and the House has the most members it's ever had. Somewhere in around 100 members have signed on. And Pennsylvania is quickly becoming into the national spotlight. Unfortunately, we do not have a single statewide LGBT civil right, and that's shocking to a lot of people. We have some of the weakest anti-bullying laws. It's still legal to have conversion or pray the gay way therapies. And there is absolutely no single discrimination protection under the Human Relations Act. That's going to go into one of our big ticket items, which is House Bill 300. What House Bill 300 aims to do is amend the Human Relations Act to protect from discrimination in both public and credit accommodations. And Representative Sims and most activists will tell you, outside of all the other pieces of legislation that we're currently working on, this is going to be the most important. Currently, it is stuck in State Government Committee and chaired by Representative Darrell Metcalf from Butler County. Is anyone familiar with Representative Metcalf? Well, Representative Metcalf actually blocked Representative Sims from speaking on the House floor on the day that the Defense of Marriage Act was repealed. He is fiercely and staunchly conservative, and he's actually introduced legislation to amend the Constitution of Pennsylvania to ban same-sex marriage altogether. We're very hopeful that this has little to no shot of even coming up for a vote. Unlike Chairman Metcalf, there are many who identify as conservative and Republican, but still support this legislation. As I said earlier, the polling data definitely reflects that there is support, overwhelming support, across every demographic, every partisan politics, and we are very optimistic that this could be the year we finally see House Bill 300 pass. It kind of turned into a perfect political storm. We have Governor Corbett, who is politically entrenched. We have an assembly that is very quickly jumping on board. For the first time, we have 103 legislators that have signed on as a co-sponsor. and this includes more than half the Senate. And this is the first time that we've ever reached this many co-sponsors for this piece of legislation. It's been introduced for several years now. Unfortunately, it's never made it out of committee. And we were hopeful that this bill will be referred to a different committee other than the House State Government. Unfortunately, the GOP majority had referred it to Chairman Metcalf, and it has been sitting there and does not appear to have any option to be called up for a vote. However, we are exploring several different options to force it out of committee, one of which is something called a discharge resolution. We do have to wait to do this procedural vote because one of the main problems is with this procedure is that when it occurs, you can no longer bring up a similar piece of legislation for the remaining legislative session. So if the discharge resolution is introduced and fails, House Bill 300 is dead for the rest of the legislative session, which goes to the end of this year. So we'll keep trying to back channel our support and get this out for a vote, but if the year starts to come to a close and it appears that it's not going to, I would suspect that most of the co-sponsors on the bill will be supportive of introducing a discharge resolution. This bill definitely needs support from the public. It is there. I mean, every time we've contacted or had a poll done, the numbers are just overwhelming. But legislators need to hear from you. The progress is definitely incumbent upon public action, public awareness, and contacting your legislators. The best marketing is word of mouth. I don't know how many of you have volunteered on campaigns and knocked on some doors for some candidates, but for every 19 people you talk to, that transfers into one vote. So it is definitely an uphill battle, but it is a battle that we believe we're going to be able to win. And it's important to note that 6 in 10 self-identifying Republicans do support this legislation. And this is outside marriage equality, outside some of the other big ticket items that we have for LGBT civil rights in Pennsylvania. But most importantly, we need to focus on House Bill 300. We did introduce Pennsylvania Marriage Equality Act last summer. This was in response to the Supreme Court's Defense of Marriage Act when they struck it down. And it has been sitting in the Judiciary Committee since we introduced it. One of the other big pieces of legislation is actually a companion bill that we introduced, and it is to outlaw conversion therapy. Is anyone familiar with what conversion therapy aims to do? These are terrible practices. There is not a single professional medical association that I'm aware of that considers this a legitimate practice. It's dangerous, it can be harmful both physically and psychologically. It has ramifications that last years. It is something that can ruin an individual's life. And right now, 2 states have currently outlawed it, California and New Jersey. Both of these pieces of legislation have been held up in court, and we are working pretty hard to get this passed. Because, as we focus on things like House Bill 300 and the Pennsylvania Marriage Equality Act, this is something that impacts children. We do not think that this is science. This is junk science. It is not sanctioned or appropriate for children to be engaged in this type of psychological torture. But this bill, like many of the other pieces of legislation, is also stuck in Health and Human Services Committee. We are extremely optimistic that there is going to be some progress, but we do believe that it's going to take a new governor to really put these practices in the law. As you know, the campaign is really getting underway. Representative Sims has announced his support for Representative Allison Schwartz, and we believe that she would be a tremendous leader for Pennsylvania, and we're looking forward to working with her when she is finally elected as the first female governor of Pennsylvania. And as I said, this progress on these legislation is going to take legislators hearing from you. I can't tell you how important it is to just pick up the phone and call. If somebody calls me and tells me about the legislation they want us to support or oppose, it's automatically looked into because there's not enough of it, and so when it does occur, it's definitely a wow moment because if somebody feels that strongly to contact us, to write us, it's definitely something we want to pay attention to. So I would urge all of you to reach out to your legislators, reach out to your friends and family. It's definitely time to exert the pressure to bring progress to Pennsylvania. Now, I'm going to open up to questions if you have anything for specific questions on how you can get more involved, certain organizations that would be beneficial to get involved with, anything that you really want to focus on, because this event should be about all of you.
Allied organizations.
Equality Pennsylvania is definitely going to be one of the biggest organizations to focus on. The director of that is Ted Martin. He is probably one of the most influential LGBT activists in the state. They have a great network and great resources for people to become involved, and they have tremendous programs that occur across the state to help bring people together to finally get this done.
And Representative Sims' connections you have?
Representative Sims was the executive director of the organization. He was there for several years, and then before that he was the in-house counsel for the Philadelphia Bar Association. He strongly believes in the leadership over at this organization and hopes that he will get involved not only with our office but with them as well.
Do you know how much communication, if any, and organizing is done across the river with Equality New Jersey?
As far as
New York or any other states?
as far as coordinated campaigns with other states, I'm unaware of. That would definitely be run through the Equality Pennsylvania organization, and I wouldn't be qualified to speak on their internal matters.
So as far as you know, there's no even no kind of low ground communication, just in terms of like trying to get legislation through.
As far as I'm personally aware, no. Strictly because I think one of the main factors to that would be that Pennsylvania has a lot more ground to make up than New Jersey and New York and the surrounding states. I think the people that are working with Equality PA are focusing on what's going to be going on the state level here. Any other questions? Well, again, my name is...
How many organizations, LGBTQ organizations are in Pennsylvania?
I'm sorry.
How many LGBTQ organizations are in Pennsylvania?
There's a multitude of organizations, but the main two that I would recommend checking out would be Equality Pennsylvania for number one, and there's also Marriage Equality in Pennsylvania. These two groups are always holding rallies and events to bring awareness to garnish public support and pressure legislators into doing the right thing.
Do you know if there are local chapters either across the state or even in Philadelphia?
For Equality Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, the main headquarters for it is right at 12th and Chestnut.
Okay.
So they have a wide base across the state, but one of their main buildings is in Philadelphia itself.
But there are like, Amnesty has chapters across the state. For example, I don't know, it's not the same kind, but they're not working just at state level, they're organizing
Absolutely.
county, district by district.
Yes, there are regional directors across the state that coordinate events in their area. Yes.
So with the maneuver of the discharge resolution, what is the expected time frame for HB 300 to come up?
To quantify it, that's going to be impossible to do. Strictly because with legislation, you have to analyze the environment that's around it at any given time. We are optimistic that this could be the year it is passed, just surely because of so many external political factors on the legislators in both chambers and in the executive branch. We're hoping that these factors will definitely create an impetus to get this done.
So realistically, are you looking towards June?
Well, realistically, I would say by the end of 2014 is when we would like to see progress. June is going to be definitely taken over by the budget. That is going to be the main focus of everybody in Harrisburg.
Sure.
To see anything get passed during this period would probably be difficult, but I see, hopefully by the end of this year, we'll see some significant progress on House Bill 300.
And can you talk a little bit about the religious exemption of HB 300 and what that would mean
Yeah.
for the LGBT community if passed?
Absolutely. The religious exemption is a bit of a tricky thing. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't want to get into too many specifics, but the main thing would be that, you can be employed by one of these organizations that are, faith-based or religious. But if you are not actively participating in the ministry of that religion, you do not have to be, you are exempt from House Bill 300, or excuse me, you are not exempt from House Bill 300. Does that answer your question?
So hypothetically, if you are, let's say, a transgender nurse and you seek employment at a Catholic-run hospital, would the religious exemption allow for that hospital to discriminate, basically not hire that transgender person?
From my understanding, no.
Okay.
From my understanding,
I have 2 questions.
Mhm.
First, are they planning on doing anything passing this at a national level rather than just like individual states?
no. Yes, ma'am. On the federal level, there is the Employee Non-Discrimination Act. Several months ago, it was really up for a lot of publicity, and it came up for a vote. Senator Toomey, who, as you know, is pretty conservative, actually voiced his support for it. We were really excited to see that. Governor Corbett on the state level has as well. He claims that he was not aware that this was even the case in Pennsylvania. Whether that's true, I'm not sure, but just to have his support, we're very grateful for it.
And also, about writing letters to different politicians and stuff about this kind of topic, who would be the best people to get in contact with to talk to them about it and stuff?
I would say if you take a look at the pieces of legislation that are on this bill here, and you can go to the General Assembly's main website, look up these pieces of legislation, and you'll see that they're stuck in committee. If you're writing, contacting the committee members that are in those committees, I think that is a great first step. That's going to be one of the most beneficial things you can do. Outside of that, contacting your representative and your legislators is extremely important because they want to hear from the people that are going to vote for them and what's important to them. So, to just summarize, I would definitely suggest checking into the committee members, especially the chairman and chairwoman of those committees, and contacting them first, and then following up with your elected representative and state senators. Any other questions? Great. Well, I really appreciate the invitation. I'll be here until about noon today, so if you have any questions later in the day, please feel free to come up to me and talk to me. My name is Tim Keller. And you can email our office at repsims@pahouse.com. You can find us on Facebook. We look forward to speaking with you. Thank you.